Welcome to the Strategies for Success workshop. Today's topic is navigating college. My name is Sarah Call, and I am the Academic Success and Retention Specialist here at Upper Iowa University. Let's get started. So first, I'd like to welcome you, and I hope you enjoy this wonderful, challenging, and potentially transformational phase of your life. College is the sort of place that you will get out of it what you put into it. We are here to support you, and this following slideshow are some tips to help you navigate college. So the first tip we have here is go to class. It is the easiest thing you can do that will set you up to succeed. Make sure that when you go to class and before you go to class, you're reading your syllabus and understand course and university policies. Professors will ask a lot of questions and discussions to enhance critical thinking. That's why you should go to class right there, because you will learn how to ask why, as opposed to high school where you just learn to ask, or they taught you what? They taught you like, oh, I before E except after C, whereas college might be like, well, why do we do that? For my online viewers, going to class for you does look a little bit differently. So that means going into UIU Learn and posting discussions and making sure you read everything that your instructor is posting in that portal and whatever additional class portals you have in your online class. Our next tip here is complete your assigned reading. So instructors expect you to have completed the reading. Your lectures will supplement the reading and are not a substitute for it. And in high school, you could easily get by without reading while relying on lectures and class discussion. In college, this is rarely the case. Make sure you are getting organized. Figure out a system that works for you. Your system may not look like something from a Pinterest board, and that's okay. My system is I write tasks down on sticky notes, I put them on my desk, and once the task is done, I throw away the sticky note. Keeping things in your head will catch up to you eventually. You will forget something, you will drop a ball, and it won't be a good time. Make sure you're getting into a routine with your organization. Maybe you say every Fridays, I'm going to go through my backpack and sort things out. And make sure you're identifying your time wasters. That could be social media. I know it's a big one. Could be online shopping. Who knows? Make sure you are taking notes. So take notes on everything. If you're reading, take notes on your reading. If you're in class, take notes in class and lectures, etc. Review your notes each day. This will help it stick in your head. And always come to class with something to take notes on and with. Typing notes can be easier to store and faster than handwritten, but make sure if you're in an in-person class, your instructor allows for computer use and typing during class first. Make sure you're utilizing your free resources. So we have the Tutor Center, the Writing Center, instructors, advisors, academic success staff like myself, library, your mentors, course syllabi. We also have counseling services, career services. Whether you are a Fayette student or an online center student, these resources are available to you all across the board. So utilize them. Make connections with other students. So make sure you're introducing yourself to folks in class. That way, if you miss a class, you'll have someone you can ask for notes. Just as a side, never ask a professor what you missed. Always take that initiative to try to figure it out from another person first, or check your syllabi, or see if there's anything in UIU Learn. Don't put that extra work on the professor. Making connections with other students, you'll make friends. Study buddies are also another thing that could, benefit you. And you could have some professional networking for the future. So maybe it's, Bob from your math class is now CEO of a big company and he's looking for a new right-hand man. Well, hey, you might You might be that person. So next we have 6 reasons why you should talk to your professors and advisor. Reason number 1 here is clarifying information so they can explain an unclear idea or concept. Say you did the reading, you went to class and something's still not clicking. You can talk to them and see if they have any, maybe a different way of explaining it to help you understand, something along those lines. And you can ask follow-up questions that didn't get addressed during class. Those could be, again, those clarifying questions, or it could be an additional thing that maybe wasn't relevant to the class, but you still kind of want to know about. You can ask your professor later. Reason number 2, they will give you career advice. So your advisor and instructors know possible career paths for your major. And this will be particularly helpful if you're deciding a major or even just deciding a career path. Reason number 3, they can give you insight to possible internships and other opportunities. So internships are huge when it comes to landing a job because they provide you that experience. And experience is often what will get your foot in the door. Instructors also often have large professional networks. This includes former students and current and former colleagues. Reason number 4 is the course assistance perspective. So your advisors or instructors can advise on how to take better notes, can help you determine which information is of most importance for exams. Again, they're clarifying confusing concept, and they can be a sounding board for your projects. Like maybe you have a 10-page paper on something and you're maybe struggling like, okay, what direction do I take this next? You can always take it to the writing center or ask your professor and be like, hey, I think this is the direction this is going. Do you care if I talk about X, Y, Z in my paper as well? Reason number 5, to talk to your instructors and advisors. So this will improve your learning. So talking to them can help instructors make positive changes to their courses. For example, if several students are not understanding a particular concept, maybe y'all talk it out and you realize like, hey, none of us are understanding this. Let the professor know. Maybe they'll provide extra time in class the next week to kind of go over that thing again, or maybe they'll offer more resources to help you understand, whatever it is. Talking ideas aloud with another individual improves comprehension and retention. So talking it over with your professor, like I kind of mentioned earlier in that clarifying piece, by hashing it through, you'll remember it better, or you'll comprehend it better. And once you comprehend something, you'll learn it. So the last reason here to talk to your professor and advisor is to make an impression. This will show your dedication to your learning. They may contact you in the future if an opportunity arises, and they can write letters of recommendation for future jobs or next level of schooling. Oftentimes, though, that this letter writing, you can ask them for a letter, but I would only do it if you've established that relationship with them. You know, you can't just call up and be like, yeah, I'm Jane Doe. Don't you remember me? I was in the back of your math class one time. They're not going to remember you. Why would they want to write you a letter? But for example, if like with your advisor, you showed up maybe a couple times a month to talk to them, you established that rapport, they're going to be willing to write you a letter of recommendation. So when to visit a professor? Oftentimes professors will have scheduled office hours. Usually that information can be found in their syllabi. All else fails, email them and ask them when their office hours are. Even better, scheduling an appointment via email during office hours once you've figured those out. If the office hours offered don't work, ask for an additional time when it is convenient for the instructor. So say their office hours are only from like noon to 1 on Tuesdays, be like, hey, are there any other times that I could possibly come and talk to you? And make sure you want to discuss or you mention what you want to discuss ahead of time. So that way, if they have to do any preparation, like maybe it's looking over your degree plan really quick or something along those lines, they have a chance to have that prepared for when you come to meet with them. So making sure that you prepare for your appointment then. So jotting down any questions you have in advance, coming up with options ahead of time. So if you have a problem, or say you're registering for classes, maybe come with a few ideas of your own, and bring your assignments and papers, anything you want to discuss. So the image I have over here is like this person got an F on a paper and they want to bring it in and say, hey, what could I have done better on this? Make sure you're being respectful. So right off the bat, ask them how they want to be addressed. I know if I see doctor in somebody's title, I default to that until they either say, oh, you can call me Bill, or maybe I ask them like, hey, do you prefer to be called Dr. So-and-so? Make sure you are showing up on time. That is a major respect thing, because if you show up 45 minutes late to your meeting, that is time in which they could have met with another person, or they could have gotten some other, things off of their list done. Have a positive attitude when you're meeting with somebody, well, your advisor and professor specifically, but anybody. Be open to suggestions and don't be defensive. We're just all here to help you. And sometimes maybe our suggestions aren't what align with your idea of what a good solution is, but hear us out. Make sure to thank them and show appreciation for their time. Just a common courtesy thing right there. Next, we're going to talk about email etiquette. So please make sure that you're using your college email account with anything college related. This will help keep messages out of our spam boxes. So for example, if you send me an email from like your Yahoo account, it will go to my spam box, and I don't always check my spam box. So just to make sure we don't miss emails, use your UIU email address. Avoid cell phone vocabulary, so LOL, JK, IDK, all those little elite speak sort of deals. Use positive messages. Avoid emoticons and emojis unless the professor uses them. So if they send you a little smiley face, like it's okay to send them a little smiley face back. Use professional greetings. So again, with that doctor thing, always include that unless told otherwise. And make sure you're filling in your subject line with a clear, this is what this email is about. So email etiquette part 2, make sure you're including your full name. If you're emailing about a class, the class name and the class meeting time, this will just help the professors be able to identify who you are. Make sure you're proofreading, spell checking, checking your grammar. UIU is offering free Grammarly accounts. All you have to do is email the Writing Center and they can hook you up with that. Don't use all caps in your email. Use appropriate punctuation. So make sure it's clear where your sentences start and end. Avoid too many exclamation points, question marks, periods. Don't email when you're angry or upset. So say you get an F on something and you're completely steamed up about it. Maybe just sleep on it, give yourself a night, and then email the professor to ask what you could have done better. And make sure again that you're thanking them for their time and consideration. So here we have an example of a bad email. And if you want to pause this recording to just kind of take a moment to look it over, you can do so now. But some things we see that are wrong with this email are, one, this person here is using their personal email address. They give no indication in the email whatsoever who they are. So the professor will have no idea who is emailing them. Their subject line just says class. It isn't a clear idea of like, okay, well, what about class? They've CC'd their mother as well, which isn't really professional. They didn't do any sort of greeting here. They didn't go, oh, Professor Smith. And then if we just look at kind of like the content of the email too, so this person here is asking, when can they meet to talk about the important information that was covered in class? They were up too late the night before and overslept. So, a couple problems there. The first one that stands out to me is that they were just up too late the night before and overslept. Like, what does that up too late mean? Were they playing video games? Were they just not sleeping? Like, it makes it look like that class is on the back burner to whatever the student was doing the night before. And it's different if, like, say they were up all night because they were sick or something. Like, be specific with those things. And we see here, thanks. We got that text speak and the too many exclamation points. We also see here that the student is putting the work on the professor to figure out what they missed, when the student should be trying to figure it out via their course syllabi, talking to their peers, etc. Down here, we have that the student has included a YouTube link that will make the professor's day. The sentiment, I mean, it's a nice thought, but I would say unless you had that kind of relationship with your professor, don't send them random YouTube videos. If it's something like relevant to class, like maybe you're just like, hey, look, I saw this video about birds. I thought it was cool and related to our biology class. Like, that's different. So here we have an example of a good email. And again, if you want to pause, just look that over. You can do so now. But some things I see going right in this email are the student is using their UIU email address. Their subject line is clear. We can see here just by looking at it, like, oh, they're going to be absent on Friday, October 7th. They've addressed the professor. The student has stated what class they're in and what time it meets. And they're letting the professor know in advance that they will be gone. Granted, you're not always going to know in advance that you're going to miss something, right? Life happens. But this person knew ahead of time and is taking responsibility. They have spoken with a classmate who's agreed to give them a copy of the notes as well as collect handouts, which is good because the student then has taken that step of like, okay, I'm going to miss class. What do I need to make sure I have all the information I need? And then this person is just saying, is there anything additional you need from me? So they've notified the professor, and they're also just making sure all the bases are covered. They're thanking the professor for their time, and they've signed it with their full name. This is a good email. And as you can also see, they've used proper punctuation. So just to go over your resources again, actually, before I even do that, it is okay to use your resources before you're struggling. So you don't have to be failing to use the tutor center. You don't have to be bad at writing to use the writing center. You don't have to, be having a mental health crisis to utilize counseling. It's honestly better to utilize your resources before you are struggling. So then that way you can avoid getting to that point of just crisis. So for example, if I was in a math class, I can't do math to save my soul. So I would put myself in a tutoring sort of situation as soon as possible because I know that I would struggle just ahead of time. So again, these are your resources, utilize them. We are here to help you get through this. We are in this together. So your student responsibilities. You are responsible for knowing when assignments are due. That can be found usually in your course syllabi. Knowing when tests and exams are, unlike say high school, the professor isn't going to write it up on the board and be like, this is what homework is due tomorrow and this is when the tests are. If they do that, they are very nice and you should thank them. But most of the time, they're going to expect you to rely on those syllabi. Make sure you're bringing your required materials to class, utilizing resources as needed. So, like I mentioned earlier, if you know you're going to struggle with something, reach out. Accept responsibility and consequences. So, if you're going to stay up all night, accept that you might not feel so great the next day. You're responsible for doing the work. So that is all of the work. That is the homework. That is the work of just getting through college. That is the work of getting to know your peers, interacting with your professors, reaching out for resources, etc. You're responsible for being on time. As we mentioned earlier, that's a respect thing, and also you are then utilizing your time appropriately. And you're also responsible for checking and responding to emails from faculty or staff.